Here we're going to go over the latest feature updates from our 10.18 TMS release. We're going to start out with a big one in regards to reworking our users into staff. So you can see here under assets, the users list has been adjusted and you can see a staff list here. So this was done in order to allow for generation of settlements for non-system users as well as dispatchers and coordinators to automate that process and make that settlement generation available for them. So if we go into a profile now, you are going to see additional information from the user and now staff member. Under general, you're going to get invoicing and company association that they're working for, along with their address, phone, additional birthday info, and a separate section that will distinguish between their system user aspects. So this is going to be the same from the previous user profile with their rights, permissions, login, and password. And you'll also see a new employment and financial section here with SSNs, hire dates, review dates, termination, along with a specific tax form that they are working under as well. So we'll have pay method options available that will be dependent on their W-2 or 1099. You can also pay them out as a specific vendor with the pay to, similar to how the drivers are set up if you have 1099 selected. Otherwise, they will default to having the settlement generated under their personal information here. You can set a specific flat payment method for them per settlement period, as well as a load-based pay here that will be based off of a margin between your gross pay and rate on the orders, or a percentage of the rate, gross total, which includes the accessorials, or a flat rate per load that you will then be able to input here. In order to have this enabled, you will also have to make sure that under the tools and preferences, you will have your settings set appropriately here under the QuickBooks section. So you will now see that we have adjusted our item and expense accounts dependent on driver type here to now include a staff option as well, where you're going to have to make sure that the charges by default, which are going to be in essence the dividend charges that are going to be created per load for those specific coordinators, dispatchers that are assigned, as well as then the paycheck that will be tied to that flat amount, and you can have those be linked to the appropriate QuickBooks account as well if you do have that integration available. So you want to make sure that that is going to be filled out before then setting your staff pay method here, which you will then be able to adjust directly under their profile. You also have a cross-reference tab for any charges and recurring charges for those specific staff members that you are trying to generate settlements for. So you can add any one-time charges, same process as with the driver. You're going to add your type, invoice and company expense account, and then date and description as to what it is for, along with the same setup for recurring charges, where you're going to be setting the frequency, any limits, as well as then the actual rates and descriptions as well. So same process there as for the drivers themselves. So let's go through an example here. We're going to go back into our order planning list, and you are going to then make sure that you are moving an order here from the delivered to invoice status. So that's when the dividend charge is going to be created itself. So you are going to see this coordinator tied then to the specific order, where then a dividend charge is going to be made for this load. So again, the load has to be moved into the invoice status, and then that corresponding pay method per load is going to be auto-creating when you are going to generate a settlement there for the staff. So let's create one here as well. One once we go into our generate settlement screen, you're going to see some adjustments here being made. So as opposed to the toggle between the driver and the carrier, you now see a drop down with a staff option. So same process will apply, where you're going to select your cutoff date, settlement date, whether you're going to send settlements immediately or schedule them for a batch in the future, as well as then distinguish between your settlement companies if you have multiple. But basically you're going to be selecting all for a period. And then same process as with the drivers, you're going to be selecting which transactions, loads, charges are going to be included on that settlement. So for example, if you have a load-based dividend charge, it'll be default as an earning for the dispatcher, and then you will be seeing the related order ID, as well as then a description of the pay method and the load number here within the description column that will also be relayed on the settlement itself. So anything that will be a one-time charge, again, you have shortcuts to create them directly from this window, but those will just have the description that you have when you created them, either under the profile or during this process as well. And then you will be seeing that flat payment as the paycheck that is also related to that specific staff's profile as well. So as you select, you are going to see the total adjust, and same process here where you are actually going to approve and then process the settlements same exact way as the drivers themselves. So we're going to process one, and you'll get your progress bar, and then this will also be saved and generated under our settlements history list, where you will be able to see it and make any adjustments needed. So if we open that list from settlements history, you will be able to see then the type, whether it is related to an owner, a driver, or a staff member specifically, and you will get then that record here with the same options to make any adjustments after the fact, what are going to be load-based dividend charges as earnings or separate charges as well, and then you can view, download, resend via email as well. So we're going to take a look at this one, and as you can see, similar formatting to then the drivers, but you have then your earnings based off your loads, additional deductions, and a summary total there down at the bottom. So last part of our staff adjustment will also be in relation to our QuickBooks integration, where you will now also have an additional section upon export, where you will see a staff section that will default any W-2 staff members as employees, and the same process with the drivers. If they do have that W-9, 1099 linked to them as a separate vendor, they can go over as vendors. So keep in mind of all of those adjustments in regards to the new staff functionality, as well as then the coordinator settlements themselves. We have a few other adjustments in regards to this current release that will also be related to our order planning screen. So we will show a few examples here. We have now added a column that will show a projected weekly gross in addition to the original weekly gross that we had. So this will show a calculation non-dependent of just the loads that are in the invoice status, but anything that will also be within the assigned status to that specific driver, as well as in progress delivered. You'll see a total for that projected amount for the week specifically. If we go into one of these orders, we have also made some additional adjustments in terms of allowing to make shipper, consignee, and stop scheduled dates required. So shipper, consignee, and when you are adding a stop, you will now be able to see these three additional fields there within that gear icon if you do have those permissions as a user to make the adjustments. But if you wanted to get more granular date and time information from a planning perspective, as you can see, that will add that asterisk to the from and tos on then those locations in order to force the specific planning date and times to be input in order to save an order. So a little bit more of a structured time continuity there from the planning perspective. The next change that we have made is in regards to making address locations required, which will also be disabling a zip-to-zip location. So currently you can type in your zip and click enter, but if you'd like to force a full address, we have a new option within our settings here under preferences. If we go into general, you'll see a new location section that will allow to make the addresses required. So if you select that, that will force to input a full address when adding a new location, as well as remove the shortcut of adding a zip to zip. So then when you are going to be having your locations, any new ones that would be added, there will then be an asterisk next to the address, and you'll have to then fill that out. So removing the shortcut, as well as then forcing a full address to get more granular location info and have those shipper consignees and stops have those exact locations that the driver went to. Following changes we also have in regards to a new integration. We have now linked with a new fleet management platform called Driveroo in order to pull inspections into the TMS. First being pre-trip inspections are going to be pulled by matching assets, and you are going to see that relation within a new column on the order planning screen. So again, something that's going to be visible within your columns here within the list. And as you can see, we have last PTI showing. So this will be checking every 15 minutes for any new pre-trip inspections that should be done daily for the drivers. And if the last PTI was done greater than 24-hour window from the current time, you are going to see this field show up in red, providing that actionable item for you. If there has been a PTI less than 24 hours ago, you will see still the date and time there visible, but you won't have the cell highlighted in red showing you that something there needs to be done. We also are going to be pulling the asset-based inspections from Driveroo. So if we go under a specific profile here as some examples, so we'll show this specific truck that also got a PMI and on-the-road inspection. We'll also be pulling our annual DOT inspections there. So you are going to be getting the odometer readings, the date and time of the inspections, as well as any potential comments and files if they are attached and coming through from that Driveroo feed where we are pulling the information. So as you can see, odometers, dates, type of inspection, so we'll be able to then pull and match these depending on how you have them set up within your Driveroo profile, and those will then be going for your trucks and trailers there to then trigger your highlighting and notifications for upcoming PMIs and annuals, as well as track record history for any OTR inspections within there. Our next change will be a small one in regards to a new cross-reference under our maintenance list, where we will now have an option to show a related settlement ID for any charges that would be tied to a specific maintenance transaction. So we want to make sure that there is a charge created here that is obviously associated to a specific driver. So if they are going to be responsible for a part of the maintenance and that is tied to their settlement specifically, you will then see in the list where this charge is related to. So you'll have a settlement ID column within the maintenance list to show that cross-reference there for you. We have also made a slight adjustments in regard to driver birthday notifications. So this has been extended to admin users as well as coordinators tied to assets that are linked to that driver. So as you can see here, these notifications will also show up within the bell area here, and you can dismiss them, but they have been extended to then reach more people with the driver birthday info, so you can be made aware of that. And then last but not least, we have made an adjustment to basically show our correlated driver groups within a few reports. Starting with our drivers report, we will now have a filter by specific driver groups, as well as then a new column within our full and short reports. So you can then filter and sort by related driver groups here on the left hand side, as well as within the columns, again dependent on the specific report, but it should apply within our full and short reports. Under drivers, under trucks specifically, it will only be linked as a specific column. So if we run the report here, you see it won't be on the left hand side, but it'll still be available here on the right, but it should also be available on both there for you under the tolls report, as you can see here, as the columns with a filter, and the columns here as mentioned, as well as the driver charges report. So you can filter by these specific groups as needed, and then see any corresponding information, again, if there is data available for your time period. But helping out with the correlations for driver groups linked to those specific reports as well. As always, let us know if you have any questions or needed any help with setup of new features or how they work. Thank you.